History remembers battles for glory, territory, and honor. But some battles are remembered not for victory, but for sheer savagery. For every strategy, every army, there is a human cost that numbers cannot capture. This is the story of the most savage battle in human history, a battle that shattered lives, civilizations, and the very rules of warfare. The seeds of this battle were sown long before the first sword was drawn. Empires grew hungry for power, alliances shifted like sand, diplomacy failed, and ambition escalated into bloodshed. Entire cities mobilized, and for the ordinary people, life would never be the same. Merchants, farmers, and families had no warning. They only knew that the horizon carried fire and death. Millions of men prepared for war. Their training was relentless, their loyalty unwavering, but the battle ahead would push them beyond the limits of endurance. Armies from rival factions faced each other across fields that would soon be soaked with blood. Commanders studied maps, plotted attacks, and rehearsed maneuvers. Yet nothing could predict the carnage that was about to unfold. For the soldiers, it was honor and duty. For civilians, it was a nightmare waiting to descend. The first clash was deafening. The roar of men, the thundering of hooves, the scream of cannon fire. Lines broke, soldiers fell, and the ground itself seemed to quake. Strategies were tested against human endurance. Survivors would later describe screams that lasted for hours, echoes of panic, and death intermingled with the smell of blood and smoke. The human cost was unimaginable. Thousands were killed in minutes. Armies that marched with precision were reduced to chaos. Medics and survivors worked frantically, but the sheer scale of suffering was beyond comprehension. Civilians trapped in towns and villages were not spared. Fire and steel claimed homes and lives indiscriminately. Entire generations were scarred, carrying memories that would never fade. This was not just physical combat, it was psychological warfare. Fear became a weapon as powerful as the sword. Rumors of massacres, stories of annihilation, and the sight of burned cities spread faster than armies. Obedience was enforced through terror, and for those who survived, the memory of that fear would shape communities for decades. This battle redefined how war could manipulate both bodies and minds. Amidst the chaos, the tide of battle shifted unexpectedly. Strategies failed, reinforcements arrived late, and leadership crumbled. What was supposed to be a calculated engagement became a maelstrom of violence. Heroes emerged, and villains thrived. Entire battalions vanished overnight, leaving nothing but ruins in their wake. The turning point was not a victory, it was an abyss that swallowed all certainty. When the fighting ended, the battlefield was unrecognizable. Cities burned, fields destroyed, families gone. Historians later documented the scale of the destruction, but numbers alone could not convey the horror. Survivors spoke of despair, of silence that lasted for years, and of communities that would never recover. The world had changed, not just physically, but morally and politically. The rules of war had been rewritten through sheer brutality. The human consequences of this battle extend far beyond what history can easily capture. Generations were scarred not only by the immediate horrors, but by the psychological weight carried by survivors and their descendants. Families that once thrived were erased. Towns that were hubs of culture and commerce vanished completely. Oral traditions carried the memory of fear, embedding it into folklore, songs, and the very structure of communities. Scholars studying the aftermath find traces of trauma etched in architecture, burial practices, and even agricultural patterns, reminders that will reshape the land, the mind, and the memory of entire peoples. The silence left in the wake of such violence was deafening, and for centuries, historians have tried to reconstruct the lives that were snuffed out, piecing together fragments of what once was. The lesson is stark. The impact of a battle is not measured solely in dead or wounded, but in the enduring shadow it casts over human society, culture, and conscience, a shadow that can linger for generations long after the last sword is sheathed. The most savage battles teach lessons that go far beyond history books. They reveal the fragility of human life, the limits of obedience, and the dangers of unchecked power. Memory becomes a battlefield itself. What is recorded, erased, or glorified determines how future generations understand the past. Civilizations learn that fear could be wielded as a tool, that authority could be enforced through terror, and that humanity's capacity for destruction is nearly limitless. Even centuries later, echoes of this battle remain. Lessons of sacrifice, terror, and resilience survive in stories, artifacts, and collective memory. The battlefield is silent now, but its legacy endures. Scholars, soldiers, and civilians alike continue to confront the reality that such savagery is not confined to history. It is a reflection of human nature itself. The long-term consequences were profound. Economies collapsed, social hierarchies were upended, and entire cultural traditions were lost. Survivors carried the scars, both visible and invisible, and transmitted them across generations. Communities rebuilt on the ashes of slaughter often forgot what had been lost, yet the trauma lingered silently, shaping art, literature, and governance for centuries. The lesson of this battle is not only in remembering who lived or died, but in understanding how violence reshapes the very fabric of society. This was the most savage battle in human history, not just for the deaths it caused, but for how it reshaped power, fear, and memory forever. It reminds us that the darkest chapters of history are often written in blood, and that humanity's capacity for destruction is masked only by its need to remember. History watches, and we must learn, because forgetting could repeat the horrors we can scarcely imagine. History remembers if we choose to remember. The lessons of this massacre go far beyond tactics, armies, and historical dates. They serve as a stark reminder of the fragility of human life, the limits of compassion, and the devastating consequences when power goes unchecked. Violence is not merely physical, it leaves psychological scars that echo through generations, shaping societies long after the last battle is fought. Entire cultures can be erased, traditions silenced, and collective memory manipulated to serve those who write history. This is a cautionary tale for leaders, societies, and individuals alike. The pursuit of dominance without restraint transforms human civilization into a cycle of terror and suffering. It teaches us that remembering is not passive, but an act of responsibility, and that forgetting even a single atrocity can allow the darkest chapters of humanity to repeat themselves. True understanding comes from confronting these horrors, studying their causes, and embedding the lessons in education, culture, and policy. Only then can humanity hope to recognize the warning signs of cruelty, prevent history's repetition, and honor the lives lost not merely through memorials, but through conscious reflection and change. We must question the narratives that glorify conquest while silencing suffering. We must confront uncomfortable truths about human nature, acknowledging the capacity for both cruelty and resilience. Communities must preserve stories that authorities might prefer erased, keeping memory alive even in the shadows of devastation. Generations shaped by violence carry invisible burdens, and understanding those burdens is crucial for building empathy and justice. Education must go beyond facts and figures, teaching the moral weight of choices and the consequences of inaction. Societies that forget are doomed to repeat mistakes, while those that remember can transform lessons into safeguards. Every artifact, ruin, and survivor testimony becomes a tool for vigilance, a reminder of our shared responsibility. Reflecting on these atrocities is not merely historical, it is ethical, shaping how we govern, protect, and relate to one another. The past is a living force, and its echoes demand that we act with wisdom, foresight, and humanity. Finally, remembrance is not passive, it is a shield, a guide, and a call to honor the silent voices whose lives were erased, but whose lessons endure forever.